25.
Sam should
Andor.
pay us ad money because I'm advertising his podcast on my podcast.
I don't know if it works that way, buddy.
If that's the
Isn't it? We
case,
all
then
just pay Tom and we just go,
if that's
hey.
the case, Psych owes me money. I'm kidding.
I've got a rock you can try to get blood from too.
So, are you excited for the Deadpool announcement they did today? Out of nowhere.
I mean, it's kind of standard Ryan at the Reynolds at this point, right?
Oh my God, yes. Here, I'm
Here's the
gonna
thing.
have a random thing. Oh, by the way, here, everybody, it's gonna be super awesome.
Do you think that we're going to get the original yellow costume in this movie?
I pray to God.
I don't
'Cause they
think we'll get
teased
the
it.
original.
They teased it in Wolverine, but yeah,
They teased the like umber orange brown one. They've never
oh,
teased
that's
the
right.
yellow.
Yeah, that's right.
I guess, is that the actual original, or is that
The
just what I
brown, the
remember?
brown was
Just
the original.
cartoon?
I mean the brown one is an original. It is one, but I mean he debuted in the yellow and blue. Like it had the
Oh, did he?
whiskers on it.
Oh,
Yeah.
Oh, I thought it was the brown and gold one he did.
No, that one was a big popular one after. I want to say during the like 80s. It's some into the 90s. He kind of like bounces around in costumes for a little while.
Well, I remember reading somewhere that it's some comic where Wolverine basically explains why he wears the bright colors.
I'm not familiar with that one, I don't think.
Or something. He wears the bright colors because most of his missions are done with teenagers and he's the adult. And so he wears bright colors so that he's the one that the bad guys see first.
Oh,
All
to get the attention away from the kids. Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Which I would kind of feel like it's not out of character for Logan to do that. It's out of character for Logan to tell people that he does that.
Yes.
Oh, I'm getting delayed feedback.
Oh, that would be me.
Oh.
I was posting it on the Twitter.
But anyway, this is not the MCU Lorecast.
I mean, I'll just bring you guys on when that drops and be like, okay, just talk.
About Wolverine.
Yeah, and you mean in 2 years? Because it comes out to September of 2024.
9/6/24. Like, okay, bud, cool.
It will be on your
At
show
least
in
you've
2
got
years.
a release date where everything in Star Wars is just coming soon.
Yeah.
Fair.
Maybe.
Maybe.
Yeah, it's a maybe. Or like Rogue Squadron was put on the back burner.
Yeah, that was a coming soon one, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a coming soon,
maybe.
and then
Just kidding. No, it's not.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's
I
like,
thought
sorry
it
guys,
was
we're gonna put that on the back burner. It's not fully canceled.
It's not fully canceled?
No, they just put it on the back burner.
I'm waiting for them to announce that Eclipse is canceled.
Didn't
They
they?
might as
You
well
mean
at
the
this
game?
point.
Yeah.
The one by
There's
Quantum Dream?
announcement's already-
Yeah.
Why?
Well, it took a lot of flack right after it was announced because
Did it? I didn't even see that.
because of Quantum whatever
Quantum
and their Quantum Dream and their
For their
standing.
gameplay style, but they did confirm it will have action combat. It's not just.
Right,
It's
no,
not a
it's not-
full.
Yeah, it's not that. It's that the lead developer for this is a crappy person.
Oh.
And so there's like, you can hold, it was like called Blackout Eclipse movement on Twitter or whatever. And now
Okay.
maybe it's just because my algorithm has filtered it all out, but I have not seen anything about Eclipse since it was announced
I know.
last year's Game Awards.
Disney just just reported that they want 2 Star Wars games a year now, one AAA title and one smaller title.
I saw that, and I stand by what I said about that, is that I will be surprised if we get another game besides Jedi Survivor in the next 5 years.
Yeah.
I mean,
Their track record is terrible. Like,
well, it's not just EA anymore. That's the thing. EA doesn't
No,
own exclusive rights for Star Wars anymore.
No, it's going to be Lucasfilms because this is what they do, and this is what I've ever since the Disney acquisition. They announce things, get feelers for it, and then the minute that one of their projects doesn't do what they projected, they're like, "Okay, we got to start everything over and redesign our whole direction."
But hey,
which is what happened with Solo.
Fair. I'm at least excited that the KOTOR remake didn't get canceled. And Saber took over.
Yes.
I'd rather have Saber than Aspire in a heartbeat. At least Saber knows what they're doing.
Do you know?
Yeah.
Controversial take, and I might be biased because the shirt, but they should give it back to BioWare.
But BioWare is owned by EA.
Okay, but we still play Dragon Age and Mass Effect.
Good point. That's a fair point. That's a fair point. That's a fair point. As long as BioWare main team does it, I'm okay with it. Don't let the B team do it.
Just give it to the SWTOR team and tell them to make a single player game.
Fair enough.
I don't know how much of a hot take that is, really. I think the four of us would be, or are all in agreement. Like, yeah, just give it back to BioWare. At least they knew what the hell they were doing.
And a lot of these.
The problem with giving it back to BioWare is they already have so much that they're doing.
That's true.
It's mainly Dragon Age, Dreadwolf, right?
Well, it's Dreadwolf,
and then
Mass Effect
5.
Rumors since 5 is coming. Whatever EA has with Star Wars, but like, I guess Sims isn't BioWare, so BioWare is just Mass Effect 5 and Dragon Age.
Mm-hmm. And then Respawn has all the Star Wars stuff,
right,
in development.
But here's the thing: this is what I think, and Shelby's in agreement. If Dreadwolf does poorly, it is just they'll push out Mass Effect 5, but I bet there won't be another BioWare game outside of SWTOR after that if Dreadwolf does badly.
Yeah, but like, from how long they were working on,
not that bad.
Not with Dragon Age, it hasn't been that bad. Like, the only bad track record they've had was honestly Andromeda
and Anthem.
That's true. Anthem, yep. I
that existed.
Yeah, I know. I keep forgetting that game existed. Working in the retail,
because the gameplay was good.
Gameplay was great. It's just after release, it was nothing happened.
I think if they gave them an Iron Man game to make, I think that would be really good.
EA Motive is making an Iron Man game.
Yeah.
Interesting. Also, we might be mad at Anthem, but Anthem is the reason that the live service Dragon Age game was canceled. So we can thank them for that.
And Anthem is why Andromeda sucks. So, well,
what live service Dragon Age game was there?
Well,
talking about the mobile game, or was it a new game in general?
It was a new game. It was like heavy based on multiplayer MMO style. It was what Dreadwolf was originally before it was redesigned. They brought in new lead developers and
got it.
It is whatever.
Just bring back Blood Magic for mages. I'll be happy.
I never used it.
Psych, you're missing out.
Blood Magic was the best.
It's the same thing in Star Wars games. Go dark side because that's the best powers. Always.
And you could be a blood mage and still be good.
And no one will care. No one will care. No one will care.
Hey,
no
my Hawk.
I know, but
my Hawk in DA2 was a blood mage, and he was still a decent person.
I am busy.
My favorite thing is to be a blood mage and then get mad at
Turn it off and go play.
Get mad at Anders for blood magic. Get mad at Meryl for blood magic. Get out of all the blood mages. Except me.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's time for Star Wars.
It is time for Star Wars. All right. Let's start the show.
This podcast is part of the Robots Radio Rocket Club, a program designed to help all podcasts reach their full potential. For information about joining the Robots Radio Rocket Club, check out robotsradio.net.
Welcome to Holocron Histories, Star Wars Canon versus Legends. We're going to take a deep dive into the lore of the Star Wars universe.
Welcome to the Holocron Histories podcast, where we talk about everything Star Wars Legends and canon, the differences, what changes were made, the stories. We talk about it all here. I am Austin, or Teacup. I am one of your hosts for this podcast.
And I'm your other host, Ben of Temeria.
And we are here with our patrons for our monthly patron chat. So I will let them introduce themselves, and we'll start with Psych, even though I said your name.
All good. Yeah, I'm Psych88. I'm happy to be here.
Mm-hmm.
I'm Penguin Ninja.
All right. Well, for this topic, our topic is obviously the Andor show, which dropped last week, 3 episodes, and just kind of general thoughts on the Andor show. Do you like it? Do you not like it? Are you medium?
Let's
Were you
start.
unimpressed?
Who wants to start first, Penguin or Psych?
I'll go first.
Solid.
Okay, so immediately, like off the bat, it goes for that slow burn, kind of, intrigue heavy and whatnot. It's very atmospheric, which is nice and typical Star Wars, if I would say. You get reintroduced to Andor, but if you know the character at this point, what he does in the opening 10 minutes is what he did in the opening 2 minutes of Rogue One. So it's okay, we're establishing this is the same guy, he does the same stuff. When we started doing the little flashbacky things, I got heavily reminded of Book of Boba, and I'm not gonna lie, Book of Boba is not my favorite.
So, let me add on to that. So it's funny, Book of Boba in that series, and warn everybody now, we forgot to warn everybody, there will be spoilers in this episode for Andor. Watch this. If you haven't seen the show, go watch it and then come back. But for like Book of Boba, and I don't know if you guys are in agreement with me, his flashbacks were more interesting than the current present day stuff. In the most case.
Yeah, honestly, it was.
I will die for Tusken content.
There you go.
Like ever since the first KOTOR game, when we learned HK could speak the Tusken Raider language, I have wanted more Tusken content for my entire life. So I will die for that. But I agree with you, Syken, a little bit. I think that the flashbacks...
Andor, it's flipped.
Right.
I feel like his present day is more interesting than the flashbacks.
Right. I feel like it does detract. At least, like, with the Boba Fett flashbacks, I felt like they added to the background of, like, what Boba Fett is going through and what he's thinking about. And I feel like they gave a background for Boba Fett's change in ideology and character.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas Andor is just like, okay, I don't care about this whatever planet that he came from, that I thought we were going to get more interaction with the sister he's looking for. But
yeah, no, that doesn't happen at all.
We didn't. And I'm mad they don't have subtitles for the language.
Right? I turned subtitles on to see if what are they talking about? And even subtitles shows nothing. I was like, are you serious? Mm-hmm. What are they saying? Like, I just want to know what they're talking about.
Like, you have to infer it based on what they're doing
by body language,
actively watching it, and it's like, okay, look, I'm watching the show. I don't care that much. Tell me what they're saying. All right, and then so the first one, you get introduced to all of his problems, right? He owes money to just about everybody in town. He's kind of not the greatest guy, like as a person. He's that friend that always mooches off everyone.
Han Solo.
Okay, but he lacks the charisma of Han Solo.
Good point. So, that's true.
Like, if you've got a friend like Solo in your group and you're like, okay, look, I'll spot you the 5 or whatever, that's one thing. But when you've got a guy like Cassian in your group, you're like, okay, look, bro, I've spotted you one too many times. You can pay me back, or you can figure it out yourself. but it kind of dragged, and we dragged way through episode 2. Like, I would believe you could cut like 70% of episode 2, throw part of it into 1, part of it into 3, and have a 2-part episode there.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Do you have anything to add, Penguin?
Honestly, that about sums it up for me. Really, I liked a good part of episode 1, and I liked all of episode 3. Two was kind of meh.
That's fair. That might be why they dropped all 3 at once to get everybody like, hey, this is where it's gonna go, and like, you know, by the end of 3, okay, at least for me, I was like dialed in, focused. It's like, okay, this is getting more interesting, and then now I have to wait till tomorrow on Wednesday.
I thought, yeah. Sorry, I'm getting my She-Hulk drops on Thursdays. Separate show. Sorry. Really, it does that slow burn to hook you for the last 15 minutes of the show, or of the 3 episodes, and you kind of start to you care for some of his friends. You see them all make decisions that impact their entire lives for some of them. I don't know. He's that hardened hero, and you want to root for him, but he's also kind of he's just not that good of a person, and you're like, I don't want to like you.
Right.
Yeah, and I think this show, compared to any other Star Wars stuff we've gotten from Disney, it is a lot darker toned and a lot more maturity. There's a lot more maturity set into the show, which I think is what we needed for a Star Wars medium. Now just give us that, but with force powers. Acolyte.
Either Acolyte or what they plan to do with Ezra.
True. Again, we do have Ezra coming in the fold with Ahsoka, which is, by all means, I am stoked for that. But yeah, I enjoyed watching the first 3 episodes of Andor. It wasn't terrible. I am more curious where it's going to go forward, and especially like we all know Mon Mothma is going to be in the show, where she's going to pop up. I mean, we have 9 episodes still left of the show. Is the longest running Star Wars show that we get. So, who knows? I kind of hope for more of the darker tone stuff, personally. I want them... hey, we did get our first, like, cuss word in Star Wars.
Yes. Yeah,
so,
we did.
Obi-Wan says damn in A New Hope.
Okay. Shit, he does. I completely forgot about that.
Just saying.
Hey,
saying.
Hey, I'm just saying from Disney, though. It's our first cuss word.
Okay, so I mean, if Space Jesus, cusses, then that's a high mark, right? Like,
and Han tells someone that he'll see him in hell. You got that too.
I do feel like it relied a little bit on some tropes, which, I mean, what story doesn't? But this one was a little bit more. I mean, yes.
Star Wars is
this
nothing
one's a little
but
bit
tropes.
Because it had like it had the toady best friend / underling, whatever. It's for whatever reason, it's always a large person with an accent, and I'm like, okay, so I know what your job is to do here for the next 20 minutes. I am curious about the Space Force or whatever it is, the corpos. But
capitalism in space.
Yeah. But ultimately, I feel like they're a bunch of children playing soldier. Like the ending sets that up real well. I will say.
how
when
they
he's
all
standing there.
got, hey, we're gonna go and go up to this car that just crashed, or this speeder. All right, and then boom. Yeah, I mean, could you have
Well,
waited?
speaking of that, I think this kind of like that scene for Andor, at least for me, kind of opens up to like a plot hole we've always pointed out in Star Wars that we've just accepted, which is that the Empire is incompetent.
Mm-hmm.
Like, but like Andor kind of opens that up with the whole thing of like they're so proud of themselves. This arrogance makes them think that they don't have to try, and
Yeah.
I think that really opens up an idea of like for us to be like, of course they don't think of things like the Holdo maneuver, even though that's the First Order, because they're
Sure.
arrogant and they don't think they're not thinking creatively. People pushed against a wall tend to think more creatively.
I feel like this show's gonna give us a lot more insight on what the galaxy particularly thinks and how they think, specifically with the Empire.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they're gonna go dive into that, like their the Empire's like mental focus on like why they act the way they do and how they always somehow they're this big force in the galaxy but somehow always fail, or half the time fail.
Mm-hmm.
It's also interesting because we see this small town, like they have a plan for resistance against, the corporate. I keep wanting to say the corporate alliance, but that's something different in Star Wars. But like they have a plan for if they show up, and like this resistance thing with the clanging and everyone moving out, which I think is interesting, showing that there are parts in the galaxy that are ready for Imperial resistance, or like resisting the Empire.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's what was the planet? Did they say it was outer rim or mid rim?
It's a mid-rim planet.
Okay.
And it is basically just Braca from Fallen Order reskinned.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I kind of felt like toned down. You still have a bunch of scrap and shipyard parts, but it wasn't taking apart star cruisers. It was taking apart probably smaller stuff.
Right. And so I just got, I don't know where Braca is. I'm pretty sure it's in the mid-rim too.
I've noticed a distinct problem with Star Wars places. Like, they're designed to feel like the galaxy's huge. You have a bunch of planets all over the place, and yet you get there so quickly. And yet we know within the lore, even hyperspace takes time, sometimes days or even a couple of weeks if you're traveling from like one end to the other or something. And sorry,
I mean, so Tatooine is in the Outer Rim.
Mm-hmm.
Alderaan is in the core worlds, I believe, right?
If it's not core, it's at least inner.
It's the inner rim. Han says that the Falcon makes that in 6 hours. He says 600 hours. So whatever that means. But is a parsec distance or is it time? Who knows? No one knows.
It's distance. It's a distance. Distance.
Yeah.
Lucas, look up your scientific terms before you start throwing them into your scripts.
Right. So bam. He's looking that up. You know what? While you're looking up, let's go to the break, man.
Oh yeah, I'm looking that up, but let's go to the break.
All right. Well, welcome to the middle of the show where we thank our patrons, our two patrons here. We thank you so much for your support, and you too can support us on Patreon. If you're listening to this episode not live, you can find that link in the episode description. If you are listening live with us, you can click a neat little button on the Twitch thing that says Patreon, and it can take you right to the Patreon. And you can sign up there for various tiers, and you can sign up for our Sith Lord Jedi Master tier, which will bring you come on the show with us like right now. You can join us and chat about various topics once a month, and you can sign up for various tiers to support us, and we really, really appreciate that. Another way to support us is to like, rate, and review us on Spotify and Apple. If you leave us a 5-star review with words, we will read it out on a future episode of the show. We do not have a review to read this week. Other than that, you can come hang out with us on Discord. You can join us on the Cups Podcasting and More, which is where we talk about all of the Cups podcasts, which includes Dragon Age Lorecast, the Assassin's Creed Lorecast, this podcast, and a new podcast that we'll talk about in a minute. And then you can also join us on the Robots Radio Discord, where you can see all kinds of podcasts about video games, about a bunch of stuff. If there's a nerdy podcast, odds are there's or a nerdy topic, odds are there's a podcast on the Robots Radio Network about it. So you can join there. You can find those links in the episode description. And then both Ben and I have new shows that have launched. And so I host with my other co-host, Shikup. We have launched the Inheritance Cycle Page by Page podcast, which is a read-through and discussion of the Inheritance Cycle or the Aragon books. That is available on Apple and Spotify. You can go there and listen. We are doing 2 chapters a week, so episodes will drop on Tuesday and Thursday. And you can come and hang out and check out that new podcast. And then, Ben, you got a new show.
I do. So I started the Wizarding World Lorecast with Sykes co-host, Captain Shenko. We are going deep and dive into the lore and the world of the Harry Potter universe. So our episodes drop every Friday. We just dropped our first episode this past Friday where we talk about the history of magic. Lots of fun, lots of lore to get into, and especially if you're looking up for the new Hogwarts Legacy game that'll be coming out next year, definitely tune in for our episodes to get more of the background of the world of Harry Potter.
Yeah, definitely. So you can check out those shows and come and hang out with us, and we greatly appreciate it. That's all I got for the middle of the show, so let's get back to it, to Andor.
Sweet. All right.
We're back. Didn't hear Win Home.
That's super weird.
It hurts my soul, Ben.
I'm sorry. I don't know what's going on with OBS. It doesn't like to do sounds. Half the time when I'm on Tom's shows, it I hear half of the sound clip and the other half's not there. It's just, it's super weird. It's just how OBS is set up.
I'm just gonna imagine it.
Okay.
In my brain, and that's how I feel about it.
But back to Onderon. Alderaan. Sorry, Onderon's a different planet. Alderaan is core world.
Okay.
It's in the core world.
Yeah. So 6 hours to get from the Outer Rim to the core world, which for a time perspective, I'm not shy about that. I live in Tennessee. If you're going from the southeastern end of the state to the northeastern end of the state, you can't make that in 6 hours driving. That's 9 hours.
Jeez. Oof.
You can't even get from Nashville to Tulsa in 9 hours. Well, no. Or you can get the 9 hours, but not 6 hours.
The more you know.
So I think that's pretty fast, actually.
I mean, yeah. I just because I've read what was it? Air the Jedi by Kevin Hearn, and he had Luke on a starship, and it just felt like he was on that starship forever as he went from place to place. And so I was like, okay, so the galaxy feels relatively large finally.
Well, I think, and you're gonna have something move faster. Like if you're in the Falcon, that's gonna move faster than probably a Star Destroyer moving through hyperspace.
There's that, and you also have to take into effect that they have to specifically go and use hyperspace lanes. So
Mhm.
depending on where you're flying or where you're traveling to, you have to jump lane to lane to lane, depending on what you're doing.
That's fair.
You can't
Do they
just go
have to
from point A
stop?
to point B.
Do
Like
they
in
have
one
to
straight line.
stop in random systems to discharge and get interrogated by
I mean,
government officials?
no.
That was a joke for sight.
Yeah. Well, you know, I have to keep you guys on your toes. All right, so can we talk about the last 10 minutes or so of Andor then?
The
Because
awesome like firefight ish
yeah, because
explosions.
I have to say that one, like as firefights and scripted fightings go, like that one had a real good ambience and it had real good timing, both like in the cinematography part of it and in the practical effects part of it. And then that ambience that happens at the end when I've never actually caught the the lieutenant's name, but when the lieutenant's like standing there and he's
Oh, and
shell
like just
shocked,
yeah.
um, he knows his career's done. He's killed a bunch of guys for nothing. He didn't get obviously didn't get the objective, and his life is effectively done. Um, like having all that crash down on you in a very powerless setting, like, and the music helped and all that, like that was done flawlessly, I'd say.
Now, do you think he's going to go after Andor?
Oh yeah. Now this is personal.
Now,
He's gonna.
I have a question for you guys.
Mhm.
Do you think I can't remember his friend. Oh, what's her name?
Bix?
Bix, thank you. Yeah. Do you think she might go after Andor as a personal grudge? Because
No, I think she's gonna go. I think my theory is that she's going to stay on what is it? What is the planet called that they're on? I can't remember.
It's not.
But
Yeah.
I think she's gonna stay there and organize some kind of resistance because, like, I think she knows that there's no use in chasing after Cassian. I think that she's more upset about them, shooting Tim for no reason. Tim with two M's. Which that's another thing for me.
Yeah.
That frustrates me and is one of my many frustrations with Game of Thrones post season 6. Is that I really dislike when you introduce a character and give them like an episode of character development just to kill them.
and just to die.
And they were kind of setting him up to be almost like Uncle Owen is to Obi-Wan a little bit, like maybe a little bit, but
actually, like for me, he fulfilled the jealous lover trope, the betrayer trope, and the but I'm going to do the right thing trope. So he was gonna die. I just didn't expect it then.
Right. I don't really think of him. I didn't interpret what he was doing as like the jealous lover trope. I was almost taking it as like the protective lover trope. Like this man is trouble for Bix and she has a blind sight to him, so I have to take care of this because she can't see what it is. And I don't even get like a I don't know, maybe I'm missing something, but like I didn't get a romantic vibe between Bix and Cassian, and I felt it was more
It
of
was
a
more like
sibling
it's more like a sibling relationship. At least what I got. Now, I think because we know finally that Cassian is from Casa?
Katari.
So, he's a Katari. And when I first heard that, first word that came to my mind was Kunari. And I was like, that's not right.
You and the rest of the internet.
Yeah.
I was like, wait, that's not right. Kanari, do you think is Bix a Kanari? Like that's what I'm kind of what I was. No.
From what I can tell is that he and I guess his sister would have been the only ones who left there, because from what they're saying, I can't tell. I'm trying to figure out the timeline here, because if Andor in the present day timeline is around the beginning of Rebels,
It's
same time.
5 BBY is literally right where it
Yeah.
starts.
Right. Okay, so that's even before Rebels. So
It's 5 BBY.
it's at the same time as Fallen Order, which has a pretty established empire. So that means that
Fallen Order is 9. No. It's 4.
It's 5 years after. It's 5 years after the Purge.
Yeah, but
because it says that when you
correct, but that wouldn't be
Wouldn't
5
that be
BBY
like 15
though.
BBY?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay,
15
BBY.
20-year difference.
Yeah.
So 5 BBY is the start of Rebels, which puts either the flashbacks, depending on how old Cassian is, puts the flashbacks either during the Clone Wars or right at the formation of the Empire.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Now, well, I think it's during the Clone Wars, because during the flashbacks, they specifically say Republic cruisers.
Yeah.
Yeah, they do say the Republic cruisers coming in. Okay. But the tech looks so Empire. Like it's that
does.
Black gloss look, the mirrors.
The inside of the Venator class cruisers look like Imperial cruisers.
It's true.
Okay.
But like I always interpret like it looked very like Miners Guild, the people in the uniform on there. So
Yeah,
I'm curious.
The Republic.
Yeah.
Now
I also feel like if it was in like the height of the Clone Wars, I feel like when we went to that like mining thing, I feel like we would have seen like clone trooper armor somewhere. Well, I guess maybe not. But
I wouldn't think so. But I do have a theory. I don't know if it's going to happen. I'm kind of hoping, since it is during the same time as Rebels. And as we talked about on our Andor episode last week, he went by Fulcrum at one point. Do you think we could see a possible actual like actress to play Hera in this show, and actually get a tease of that for Ahsoka?
I would be surprised, mainly because like we know, well, I guess we don't know, because there is that shot in Rebels like right before they fly off to Scarif where you see the ghost. But I don't think we've gotten confirmation that Hera participates in the Battle of Scarif.
I don't believe she does.
And so
yeah, the ghost is there. Well, no, they mention Hera's name in Rogue One.
They page General Syndulla or something like that.
Now it doesn't mean that she's the one flying the ghost, but I don't know
who would fly.
Who else is flying that ship?
She ain't letting anyone else fly the ghost.
Correct. So I'd imagine.
I would imagine that given the timeline, that I would be surprised if she shows up in Andor, because we're probably, if I had to guess the show, it's going to come up right till he gets the orders to go onto the mission to get Jen. That's my theory of where.
Well, remember this is 2 seasons.
Yes.
So.
But I think that's where the series will.
After season 2.
Seasons.
Yeah.
Like that's going to be the end.
Oh yeah. Like it's going to go right at the borderline of Rogue One.
It'll be like, we need you to go pick up this prisoner, daughter of Galen Erso. I do think we might get Galen Erso. See him.
We know we're going to see Saw Gerrera too.
Right. I would be surprised. I would be surprised if we saw Hera, just because like they are so focused on Lothal and the rest of the system, and I don't think that, per people knowing, I don't think that they would want Ezra and Kanan interacting with that many other cells, just to keep Jedi regularly hidden.
That's
I
fair.
know the higher ups know that Aang, Karen, and Ezra are there, but I mean, I'd love to see Freddie. I'd love to see Kanan, but I don't think that'll
I
happen.
don't know if we're gonna get canon.
Well,
If-
he said, whoever person said there are no Jedi in this show.
Mm.
So, anything else? I do have one more thought, but
What's
I
that?
want to give it. Well, I just want to give anyone else time to speak before that.
No, I'm good.
I actually take issue with the tone of this show. Not really the tone, but the adult content in this show, mainly because for two reasons. One, George Lucas, and I know he's not in charge anymore, but George Lucas has always said that Star Wars is a clear-cut story of good versus evil. There is a clear good guy and a clear bad guy, and you fall into one category. Now, I know the world's not like that, but I think painting the Rebel Alliance in kind of this morally gray area, like outright, it's one thing to interpret it, but to paint it outright, I think a little bit goes against Lucas's design for Star Wars. I don't know what he would say now, but based on interviews I've read and seen and watched with him, I do think that. I also kind of take a point of Star Wars has to run that fine line of being for children and realizing that a large majority of their fan base is adult now. And so I guess I just kind of think that because this show is not kid friendly. Like if a parent asked me, like, can I watch this with my kid? I would say no. And most of the time with the Star Wars, I say, you might want to watch it with them and like answer any questions they have. But yeah, they'd probably be okay. Now, maybe like a preteen or early teenager, yeah, I think you'd be okay. But anything under 10, maybe not.
Like as a parent, I will wholeheartedly agree to that.
And it's not that like anything they do is bad or I think is inherently bad or anything like that. It's just that a child's not ready to deal with it.
It's just a much mature, darker tone than what any other Star Wars medium has had.
Right. And you know, there are dark things like Clone Wars is a kid's show, and
they tackle many
very dark
tones.
things that happen in there. But I think it's just that it has to do with like the tone and the delivery of that, and like the fact that I guess it's the thing that like it starts in a brothel, like was just very jarring to me.
That's fair.
Like I mean, I see. I don't know. For me, I always enjoy a lot of realism in my science fiction. So to see things like brothels, or to see things like a Rebel Alliance, it starts kind of it has to start as a terrorist organization because that's what it is. And you can't. I don't know. One doesn't gloss over the necessities of what one has to do when you are fighting for your life and the lives of other people.
Right. I think that like what I get, and I definitely get that. I think that what I get is like blurring the lines between good and evil in Star Wars. I think goes against its intent and like the spirit of Star Wars as a whole. It's like I always say, like I'm a big proponent of no, the Empire does not have valid points. Like that's the trap of the dark side, is to think that you're doing good when you're not really doing good. And so I guess like when you start to blur those lines of like, oh, here's Cassian and he's our hero, but he's not really honorable or good. Like that's the thing about Han Solo. Like we do see Han Solo just shoot someone in cold blood within the first 45 minutes of A New Hope. Yes, that is fact. It takes 45 minutes for us to meet Luke Skywalker.
Huh. Okay.
Yes. It
Wait,
also takes us about
to
an
meet
hour to
Luke,
meet Anakin.
or do you mean to meet Han?
To meet Luke. It is 45. It is almost 40 minutes from the attack on the Tantive 5 to Aunt Beru shouting Luke.
Huh. Now I'm gonna have to rewatch that.
Yeah,
just to
no
know.
kidding. Now
Right,
I'm
because it's like the hour mark, the 60th minute is them boarding the Death Star.
Damn,
huh.
that's fast, and then not fast.
Yes. So like
Oh, I guess yeah. You have the Tantive 4 like and boarding and everything.
and then the
I never think of
Jawas.
that. Yeah, I never think about that. Crap.
And then you have the whole Mos Eisley sequence, which is at least 20 minutes itself.
Huh.
But so anyway, we see Han Solo, fry poor Greedo or whatever. But Greedo was asking for it.
Oh, yeah.
but like Han Solo himself is honorable. I don't feel like Cassian is honorable. Even like I don't think he's really honorable all through Rogue One until he says, "Okay, maybe I won't kill this girl's dad because she's pretty."
I mean, we see him kill a guy on quote. Like, okay, it was an accident. The guy like literally hit his head and died in the first 10 minutes of the first episode. But then the other guy was begging for his life, and Cassian's like, "Yep, no, I'm not going to deal with this," and just shot him in the face. It's like, oh, is that what we're doing?
What? I mean, he did the exact same thing in Rogue One.
True, he did.
His partner, he totally just like gutted, and that was within 30 seconds of us meeting Cassian as a character. He
True.
guts his partner and leaves him behind.
Mm-hmm. That's a good point.
He's always that guy.
And I wouldn't argue, and I guess my issue is that like Cassian is supposed to be the hero of this show.
But is he?
Whereas like I don't think he's not the hero of Rogue One.
Nah,
That's Jin.
Yeah. Like for me, I think it's best to just like think of it as he's the protagonist of this show, but that doesn't mean he's necessarily
quote unquote hero
of it. Yeah, he's just the main character, and we're going to see stuff through his perspective a majority of the time.
I guess that's true.
Now, do you
Whereas
think?
I feel like.
Oh, go on. Sorry.
I was going to say, whereas I think the actual hero is probably going to be, and I can never pronounce his name, but the older gentleman who helps him out in the end there.
Oh, the guy from Thor.
Yes, the guy from Thor.
Eric Selvig. Well, that's his Thor name.
There we go.
I forget his actor name.
It's like something Stalsgaard.
Draven is his Star Wars name, I believe.
Yes, Draven.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like now that we've got them together, I think he's going to be he's going to be the mentor, obviously, but he's going to kind of be the hero, sort of kind of character.
He'll be the one to induct or put Andor on the track to becoming a rebel, and eventually have him become a rebel spy in the Empire and all that we'll see. Now, I'm curious. Are we going to see K2 in this season?
I am
or
hoping.
next season?
I would probably next season. Go ahead, Penguin.
I was gonna say as soon as possible. I hope.
Now, I mean, I'm okay keeping the droid they have in the show. What B?
B.
Yeah,
I'm okay having that droid. I love that droid. He's awesome.
Look, the key to create a universally loved Star Wars character is to make them a droid.
Yeah, pretty much. At this point, yeah.
Just like even C-3PO, who we find annoying, like I'd still punch anyone who tried to hurt C-3PO.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All astromechs are precious. You never heard of astromech, period.
Except for R3 in Clone Wars. He can go to hell. But that's just because he went against R2.
Oh, didn't they have that fight though on like the
R2.
Yeah.
R3 fight, and then R2 just kicked his droid butt. That's what I thought.
Because Anakin never memory wiped the droid.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then
That's one conversation I love to see in whenever have that conversation like R2 and Luke talking, and R2 literally tells, "Oh yeah, everything that you went through I've known about from like 20 years ago." It's like, yeah, you never told me this.
R2 ain't no snitch.
even to his former master's son. Yep.
He ain't no snitch.
It's funny, like neither of them are memory wiped, are they? Like ever?
3PO is.
3PO
3PO
is.
is.
3PO
Okay.
is. He's been memory wiped, I think, 2 or 3 times.
At least twice that we know of.
Mhm.
Okay.
Because
R2
he
is
was
never.
memory wiped in the end of Return or Revenge of the Sith,
Mhm.
and then he was memory wiped in The Rise of Skywalker, though not permanently.
Yeah, because R2 had a backup.
Yeah.
Hence why R2 is still the best.
Penguin, you got any other thoughts about Andor and anything? Any predictions?
I'm not. I don't think so. Not anything that hasn't already been mentioned.
Anyone who's the character besides K2SO? Who's the character you want to see in the show?
Well, I am looking forward to seeing Saw Gerrera. Because I think he could use a little bit more character development. Because we've seen him in Clone Wars and Rogue One a bit.
And Rebels.
And oh yeah, he is in
Oh
Rebels.
yeah, right.
Yeah. Well, with when we see him in Rogue One, he's all like, wounded on looks like an air ventilation. In the trailer we get for Andor, he's not on that. So I think we actually might see what happens to him, to how he gets to that point.
It'll be interesting because he's not like that in season 4 of Rebels.
Correct. Well, he's a lot. Oh yeah, he's isn't he a little bit younger too than we see him in Rogue One and Rebels?
Yeah, like he's
kind of
old by the time we get to
Rogue One.
Yeah.
And Rebels,
Which
he's
makes
kind of like
sense.
in his 20, 30, like 30s.
Well, he's kind of because he's still in the he is in his Forrest Whitaker design in Rebels.
Mm-hmm.
We see him early on, so there's a couple years, but the last we see him, he is not on his ventilator, and he's basically he blows up some organ. Well, it's like Ezra goes with him because he's like Mon Mothma doesn't do anything, and so. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see Saw Gerrera. Definitely. I haven't seen him since Fallen Order.
Right.
Oh yeah.
He was on Kashyyyk. Probably one of the best planets to play on.
It's always the best planet to play on.
That's a fair point. That is a fair point. Even in Old Republic, Star Wars, or not even Knights of Old Republic. I mean,
I will raise you. Original Battlefront 2 Kashyyyk Matt is my least favorite.
Oh, well.
Oh, yeah.
That's a fair point. But anybody have any last minute thoughts or anything, and we can end the episode.
I'm good.
Yeah, me too.
All right.
Thanks for listening to the Holocron Histories podcast.
And may the Force be with you. Thank you for listening to Holocron Histories, Star Wars Canon versus Legends. You can find us on the Robots Radio Discord at robotsradio.net. You can also follow us on Twitter at SWHoloHistories and contact us at holocronhistories@gmail.com. Yay!
Right. Thank you all who showed up on Twitch. Y'all can stay, but I have to hop off because I have not eaten Yeah.
Go
and
go
I
eat dinner.
Need to eat. Bye.
See ya.
Later.
And if anybody hasn't seen, uh, James Earl Jones has officially retired from being Darth Vader.
Yeah.
But
I mean, I'm. Mm-hmm.
but he did sign his voiceover to Lucasfilm so they can use it digitally.
Yeah, I'm with the amount of recordings he's done and everything else. I mean, I'm sure they've got enough of a data bank to literally put together whatever line they need him to have,
Oh God,
whatever
yeah.
line they need Darth Vader to say. They'll just fold that right in there. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
he's gonna be Darth Vader until the sun goes out, basically.
This is true. Yep. And then Twitch chat, I will see you all next week.